Okay guys, I'm going to be walking you through a series of videos that will help you with modeling the miniature train. So for this project, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a Fusion file for this project, and you're going to want to go ahead and save it to your Fusion team right away. And you're going to want to save it, and I'm going to guess that you're going to want to make a folder of some sort. So I'm going to open up my team. When you go to home and you see your team up here, you're going to probably want to create a new project or a new folder. I've got my stuff organized, and I create folders for all my projects. So you guys might want to start doing that. So I made a folder. I clicked new folder and I named it Miniature Train. And then I opened that folder and there's nothing in there yet. So if you want to do that and name it Miniature Train, that way things are organized. That way when I have a new file that's untitled, I can just go ahead and I can click Save, and you'll see that it's putting it in my drive in my Miniature Train folder, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it Miniature Train. Capitalize that and hit save. Alright, so now we're ready to start designing. I'm going to close this little window to give myself some more room to design. And I would highly recommend that you design while having this document open, this PDF that I've given you in the assignment in Schoology. And this will have all of the drawings or the prints available to you with the dimensions. So you're going to see here on the second page that we have 9 parts that you're going to have to design. There are some that have duplicates, like 4 wheels, 4 axle pegs, 2 linkage arms, and 4 linkage pegs. You'll only have to make one of them, and then we can duplicate them. But you'll have to design each of these items as you see here. We're going to assign material properties to these as we go. I'll show you how to do that. You can see from this image here an exploded view of what the train looks like in the end. And if you scroll down, we have some tolerances, which we'll worry about later. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with our first part, which is the train body. Okay, a lot of dimensions here. I'll help you through these. I do want you to notice that not all the dimensions are shown on this picture for the train body. If you go down to the second page, there are a few more that we're going to have to reference here on this picture. But we can definitely start by creating the train body from this picture right here. All right, so let's get started. As I look at this train body, I'm looking at this front portion of the train. And I'm going to draw this shape that you see right here. Alright, back to Fusion. Now I created a file called Miniature Train. I do not want to click on Start Sketch or Create Sketch because right now I'm in the assembly. So what I want to do is I want to come over here and I want to create a new component. Alright? Because if I were to create a sketch, that would be here in the assembly, because look at my radio button. Right now, my assembly is activated. Alright? I don't want to create a sketch in the assembly. I want to create a new component in the assembly. Alright? My new component, I'm going to click, is going to be called Train Body. So I'm going to type in Train Body. Alright? Now, I'm going to click OK, and what I want you to notice is how I now have a new component, and my radio button, which is this little circle, little bullseye circle looking thing, is now activated. So my assembly no longer is activated, my train body component or part is now active. So now I can click Create Sketch. So I'm going to click on my XY plane, and I'm going to just take and draw a rectangle. Now my rectangle is going to be this little front rectangle that I see and I'm pointing to right now, which is the front of this train. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. I'm going to snap it to this origin, and I'm just going to draw it. So again, it's just this front rectangle here on the train. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dimension it. Now I'm looking very closely where my cursor is. It's let me scroll down a little bit. It's 2 inches wide. You really got to look closely at where these dimensions are pointing to see that this little 2 inches is showing. Now remember, make sure your documents are set to inches, which mine are, so I'm okay. I'm going to click on my dimension tool, and I'm going to make sure that this rectangle is 2 inches wide. Now I want to know, how tall is this rectangle? So I'm pointing at the height of the rectangle, and I'm following these extension lines out, and I can see where these arrows are pointing, and I see this little 0.875. That's how tall this rectangle is. So I'm going to click here. Okay, here to here, 0.875. Okay, there's the height of my rectangle. Now, for this little cylinder for the train body, you're going to notice it has a radius of 0.75. So I'm going to draw a circle somewhere above, and you'll see a little dashed line as I hover over the midpoint and above my rectangle. So I'm going to click somewhere above it and draw just a big circle that intersects a little bit into the rectangle. Nothing is constrained, nothing is locked. Now I'm going to dimension it to be, so I'll just touch with my dimension tool the outer edge of the circle, drag it out. So notice how this is a diameter. It's showing the whole across the entire circle. So since my dimension is 0.75 for a radius, I better double that. So if I do the math in my head, I know it's 1.5, but if you don't know, just type in 0.75 times, which is the asterisk, 2. So Fusion will do the math for you, or you could type in 1.5, but I'm just showing you that it'll do the math for you if you use the asterisk key as multiply. All right? Now, this circle is not constrained. See, it can still move around. So I need to dimension. So I'm going back to dimension. And if you look at the drawing, it'll show you how far over and how far up. So I'm looking with my cursor here. If I look at this extension line, it's showing with this 1.375 how far the center of the cylinder is off of the very, very, very bottom edge of this rectangle. So center point to the bottom is, that number over here is 1.375. Now, from left to right, because it's still blue, it's not constrained, from the left edge to the center is centered. It's halfway through this rectangle, and since this rectangle is 2 inches wide, I know that halfway through 2 inches is 1. There we go. It's all solid black, which means it's constrained. I'm going to finish my sketch, okay, and I'm going to extrude it as far back as this cylinder goes until it hits this little cab. The cab being where like the person would sit if they were driving the train. So how far is that? Well, I know the overall depth of the train is 5.5. You can see that distance right there. And then the cab distance, how far the place where the person sits is 1.75. You can see that. So if I subtract 5.5 and I subtract 1.75 from 5.5, that's how far I have to extrude it. So I'm going to click extrude. I'm going to pick all 3 of these little regions, and I'm going to type in a distance of 5.5, which is the overall, but I have to subtract from 5.5, I have to subtract 1.75. Why did I do that? Because let's look at the drawing again. The overall distance was 5.5, but minus 1.75, because I don't want to extrude it the full distance, because that's the cab distance, which I'm going to do next. So that's why I subtracted 1.75. So I'm going to hit OK. All right. Now we have that front part of the train. Now let's work on the cab, which is the square kind of portion in the back. If you notice, the top of the cab is got like a curve to it. All right. That's why we need this other drawing. If you scroll down to the second page, give me a second to do that. This little radius is going to help us to determine what size that is. So what I'm going to do is in Fusion, I'm going to click and hold on this little cube and spin it around so I have the back side, this, and I'm going to click and I'm going to make a sketch on this face right here. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to first start by creating a line, just a regular line, and snapping the line endpoint to this edge right here. Make sure it turns into a snap, which is that little blue rectangle. And I'm going to click, and I'm going to draw straight up, really, really high. When I say really high, you're going to see why. Make sure it's 90 degrees. I'm going up about almost 2 inches. And then I'm going to press Escape on my keyboard. All right. Then I'm going to click on line again, and I'm going to go into this corner, drag straight up, and then if you need to use your keyboard to press Escape when you're done, I'm going to do that again. Now why did I do that? Because I'm going to have an arc up here. There's going to be an arc. But I don't know, how high up that is or where that arc is going to be. But I'm looking at my drawing, and it says that there's a center point right here where this radius of 0.235 kind of creates where that arc is. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the Create menu, and I'm going to create a point, a center point. So click that. And then place that center point somewhere in the middle, and anywhere in the middle, but above the bottom edge of this rectangle, and somewhere around here. Click. Now, if you look at this drawing, it'll show you that it's 0.375 above, and then it's centered 1 inch off the edge. So I'm going to add those dimensions by clicking on Dimension, and I'm going to go from the bottom to the middle. That distance was 0.375 up, and then 1 inch off the edge. Okay? So that's a center point. Now, this little arc up here, if you look at the drawing, is radius of 2.35. So I'm going to draw a circle. And I'm going to snap the center point of my circle to that point I just made, and I'm just going to drag it up. And you could type in the diameter right now, or just click the circle anywhere and add the dimension to the circle. Now the dimension should be twice what that radius is. My radius is 2.35 according to my drawing. So 2.35 times 2. And again, you can do the math in your head, which would be like 4.7. So check it out. I now have that arc and where it's supposed to intersect the edges of these vertical lines you just drew. So if you didn't, I'm going to press Escape. If you didn't draw these lines high enough, you can grab the endpoints and drag them up higher. Now I'm going to use this little scissors, trim tool, and I'm going to trim the top of these lines, and I'm going to trim the outside of the circle. And now I have my profile of the outside of the train. Finish your sketch. I would twist my little box over here just so I can see it at an angle before you extrude it. Pick both of these two regions, drag it out for 1.75 inches. And now you have your back cab, just like that. Why is it not? Oh, I'm on my wrong screen, sorry. Okay, so now you got the back cab. Now, we want to cut this little, this is a toy miniature train, so I guess they have this little thing in there for, I don't know what it's for to be honest, but we're still going to design it. I believe we need to go up to our other drawing in order to get the dimensions for, yes, for this. So this is a little hole in the side, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a sketch right in the side face, this one right here. And you can see it's just a circle whose radius is 0.5, so it's a 1-inch circle. Remember, radiuses and diameters are different, but they are found the same way. You just double the radius to get the diameter. So I'm going to stick it somewhere around here. As you're drawing a circle, you can type in the number and it will define the dimension, just a little tip. It's blue, which means it's not fully dimensioned or constrained. Now I'm going to dimension it. So how far up off the bottom is it? I'm going to look at my print. Looks like it's 1.75 inches from the bottom to the center. So 1.75. And then there's a distance from the back edge to the center point of 0.25. I'm going to make sure that I put that one in as well. So now we've got 0.25. All right. Now, if you look very closely at the drawing, you're going to notice that when you compare mine, I've got this curve of the circle that comes down. And if you look at the drawing, these are not. These are the circle comes straight out the back. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to draw a line before I cut this. I'm going to draw a line that's snaps to the top quadrant and goes perpendicular. So, actually, I could probably do there to there. All right. So there we go. Now, if I finish my sketch, I should be able to extrude that, and that. And then I can pick Operation Cut, and then I can say all. So for extent type, I'm going to say all, because I want to cut everything. So I don't know if you knew that instead of putting in a distance, you can change the extent to say, I want to cut everything in the way. And I'm going to say OK. And there we go. Now we have our groove that's been cut out the back. Two things left. We now need to cut this little hole that goes into the top of our train body, which we'll put our stack into later. So we need to have a construction plane first in order to cut this hole in the top. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up to this little tab that is called Construct, drop it down, and you're going to pick, let's see, which one do we want here? We want tangent plane. So this would be, if you hover over it, it says create a construction plane that is tangent to a cylindrical face. Click it. Now it's going to say pick a face. So I'm going to hover over my cylinder and I'm going to click it. Now it doesn't know, because it's a cylinder, it doesn't know what degree or angle to be tangent to, or parallel rather to. So I'm going to click this face down here, and that tells Fusion that, okay, I'm going to be tangent to the cylinder, and if I click on this face, it's going to be parallel, click, to that. So I'm going to hit OK. And now you'll notice I have a plane that is parallel to that face I clicked, and it's tangent, meaning it's touching the cylinder at one point up there. Okay? All that so that I can create a sketch on that plane. There we go. So we want to make a hole. All right, so take a look. If you look at the drawing, we have a hole that is 0.5 inches in diameter, and this is the depth symbol. That hole goes down 0.25 deep. So all you have to do for this is make a point. Go to Create, Point, and put the point somewhere in the middle like that, and dimension it. How far off the front face? 0.875. Oh, look at that. That was a pretty good guess. 0.875. And then it's centered, so I'm going to pick the edge of the cylinder. Since my cylinder's radius is 0.75, what I can do is I can use 0.75 as the halfway point. That was actually a pretty good guess when I just clicked that, by the way. I'm pretty impressed with myself. Anyway, that center point is centered directly over where that hole should go. So that's all you need to do in the sketch. I'm going to finish my sketch. So this is how you do your hole. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the Create menu, and you are going to create a hole. When you create a hole, you're going to pick the hole. This window comes up, by the way. It says hole. You're going to hit Create by touching that little center point. Now here is the description of the hole type. Okay, you're going to do a simple hole, just like what I have on my screen. This is your depth, and it shows you like the picture of like what you're defining as a side view. So this is your depth, and it shows you in the picture in the drawing that the depth is supposed to be 0.25, so change that number to 0.25. And you can see the preview as you're changing these numbers. This picture shows you the diameter, and according to my drawing, it's saying it should be 0.5 in diameter. And then if you've ever used a drill bit, what you'll notice is that drill bits have a pointed tip. So I'm going to just ask that you turn off the pointed tip. So to do that, you just change this to 0. No, you don't change that to 0. 118. You know what? Just leave it alone. So this is some of the examples of like, let's see here, 0. Actually, is it 90? This is examples of me still learning Fusion from Inventor. Remember, you can change it to 0 and just leave it at 118. Drill point, there it is. I'm sorry. Change your drill point to flat. There it is. I knew there was a setting in there. Okay, drill point to flat. Haha, I knew I'd figure it out on the fly. All right, say OK, and then you'll see that there's now a hole. All right, last step, guys. Promise. Sorry, this is a long video. We're in 23 minutes. It's okay though. It's fun hanging out with you guys. It's kind of like just me and you right now, right? It's kind of like our alone time. Spend some time together. Anyway, now we're going to do the actually 4 little axle holes that we're going to do in the sides of this. So to do that, you're going to make a sketch on the side of this little train body. And if you look at the drawing, what we have is we have 2 on this side, and there are also 2 on the other side. 1/4 UNC. Those are threaded holes, kind of like screw holes that you would put a screw into. So I'll show you how to do those. You're going to make 2 sketch points, just like we did with the hole on the cylinder. Just drop them somewhere on the side and use the dimensions from the print. You'll see this back hole is 1 inch off the back. Very important that your dimensions are correct for these, or else your train's not going to fit when you start putting pieces together. So be very critical on all of these dimensions. What did I just do? What am I doing here? There to there. There we go. So from the back edge of the train to there is 4.5, and then from the bottom of the train up is 0.5. Make sure you have every single dimension on here correct. Double check to make sure you have 4 dimensions on these sketch points. From the bottom to the center, from the bottom to the center, from the back to here, and then from the back to here. Make sure you have those before you hit finish sketch. If they're wrong, delete them and refix them. Finish your sketch. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to hole. So create a hole. And what you're going to do for this is, this might take me a minute because I'm relatively new to Fusion. We want to do right here. So this is a threaded hole. So what you're going to do for a threaded hole is you are going to come over here to tapped. Right here, tapped. And what tapped is going to do is it is going to create threads, kind of like the spiral shape that allows a screw to go down into a hole. So I'm going to pick these two holes, and after I do that, because I selected tapped, this little window is going to come up, and it's going to let me pick the type of thread, the size thread. Now, because my drawing says 1/4 20, I'm going to change this to quarter, and you'll see that right away the designation 1/4 20 UNC pops up. All right. You can leave all the defaults. The only thing you need to change outside of the 1/4 20 UNC and all the stuff that automatically comes up is the depth. And if you look at the drawing, here's my depth symbol. You'll see that it shows it needs to go 0.875 deep. So I'm going to change that to 0.875. And now you'll kind of see a preview of those holes going into the side, and I'm going to say, OK. And if you zoom in, you'll see a little preview of those threads inside of the body. Now you can repeat this process for the other side, just like this. But I do have a little shortcut if you want to copy those threads over to the other side. There's a simple way to do that, or if you want to just make a sketch on this side, create 2 sketch points, and add your threaded holes, that's fine. But here's a shortcut. If you've already created something on one side of an object, and you just want to mirror or reflect the geometry over, here's what you can do. You can go into the construction work planes, and you can go to mid-plane. So if you go to mid-plane and you click on 2 faces opposite each other, look what it just did. It created a work plane that is in the middle. So all I did, and I'll undo and do it again, is I went to mid-plane. Because if I'm going to mirror something or reflect something, I need a plane that's in the middle in order to create the reflection. So I have a mid-plane. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mirror. And you can see it says creates a copy of selected faces across a plane. So I'm going to mirror. And now what type of mirror do I want to do? I want to mirror features. Okay, features. The things we just created, this is a feature. You can see I'm selecting features. If I hover, they light up. So I'm going to pick them. And you can see it just said I selected one feature. Now I'm going to pick, I just clicked on select a mirror plane, that. And now I'm going to click OK. Check it out. Uh-oh. What happened? That didn't work. Oh, that's embarrassing. All right, let me try that again. Create, mirror, features, this. My mirror plane should be that. It's giving me a preview. Computation, identical. All right, hang on. All right, so basically, and I paused the recording to figure it out, so if you screwed around, just undo. You need to go to Create, Mirror, pick your features, select your plane, and it needs to be on Optimized. and then it will work. There it is. Okay, sorry about that. If you open your train body by clicking on this little arrow, you can turn off your construction planes because you'll see these little construction folders appear. But we're done. This is. Oh no, we're not done. We're not done. We're not done. Don't stop. We're not done. We have to do the front holes. I'm sorry. So we're gonna make a sketch on the front face, and we're gonna put the 3 little holes, which can be created using points again. Yes, lots of points. Don't ever ask me what my point is because I have lots of points. So I made. All I did was I made a sketch on the face, and I dropped 3 more points. Now, when I look at my drawing, what you're going to notice is all these points have a lot of dimensions. A lot of dimensions. So you can follow mine, but I really would prefer that you guys read the print because you got to get used to doing that. It's a skill. 0.625. It's kind of like a puzzle. I'm looking at the centering of this hole. Work on one point at a time. That way you know each point's going to require 2 dimensions to make sure it's fully constrained. So like this point, for instance, has 0.125 off the bottom, and it is 0.1625 off of this edge. Or 1.625 off of that edge. And then this one is 0.125 and 0.375. So I can zoom in a little bit better, give you guys an idea of what those dimensions are. Now, I'm going to finish my sketch, and these holes all are 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 diameter, 1/8 of an inch deep, and all 3 of them. So the times 3 means that all 3 holes are the same. So I'm going to go to Create, Hole. Why don't I see that? What am I doing here? Oh, there it is. I'm going to pick all 3 holes, but I don't want them to be tapped. I want them to be a simple hole. So 1, 2, 3. Clearly not that big. 0.125 by depth by 0.125 diameter. And I'm going to make sure they're flat on the bottom. And now we're done with this, this part right here. If you want to, you can fill it. You'll notice that in this drawing it says, if you want to be done, you can end. I have no problem with that. If you want to make it nice and neat, it says note all edges 0.1 except for the drilled holes. So if you want to make a fillet, and you want to pick all of these edges here, and you want to add a 0.1 fillet, you can do that. Just type in 0.1, and then it will, you can keep adding to your selection, and it will create a nice rounded edge feature. Kind of difficult, I think, on the iPad, so I'm not even going to ask you guys to round it, but you could do that if you want. Okay? Make sure you save often and frequently, and looking forward to seeing you guys in my next video, which is going to be the stack, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. Looking forward to it. All right? Thanks for watching.